Mikey, they're taking your car. They're taking your car for the police.
Scam on us, you.
Good evening.
It's better. We got a new
We
one.
are.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, good. Thank
Oh,
you.
Pirqe, Tommy.
Right, perfect. We are. In fact, if you give me a book, I'll tell you what page we're on. We're Pirqe, Gimel, Halacha Zayin. So maybe you can mark it, Mike.
You got it already. It's on
Thank
page
you.
26. 26.
26?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see. Page 26.
You bet.
Is that right?
It's a big one. A long one.
No, this is not it.
No, it's not
I must have a mistake. Give me a moment. Yeah, Pirqe Gimel. I see. It's a different order here. The next page, page 28 on the top of the page. Okay,
You got it. Yeah.
that is correct. Okay, so we are doing class number 2 on Pirqe Abot. And good evening, Ari. How are you?
Hey, Ari, how are you?
So this Mishnah that we are reading, the Bi El-Azar Ish Bar Tota. First of all, who was the Bi El-Azar Ish Bar Tota? We know one thing. Apparently he was from a place called Bar Tota, which it seems that it was in northern Israel in the Galil area. And he was a colleague of Rabbi Akiva. Okay, so just to give you some historical perspective, Rabbi Akiva lived at the end of Bayit Sheni. He saw the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash, and then when the Bet HaMikdash was destroyed, the yeshiva moved to Yavne, and in Yavne there was a great group of great Chachamim, Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananya, Rabbi Eliezer ben Orkanus, Rabbi Gamliel was the head of the yeshiva, and then the Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananya had many Talmidim. One of them was Rabbi Akiva, that was one of his great Talmidim, and the other was Rabbi El-Azar Ish Bar Tota. So Rabbi El-Azar Ish Bar Tota and Rabbi Akiva, they were close. Rabbi Akiva was very involved in the editing of the Torah Shebe'al Peh, which eventually became the Mishnayot. Correct. So Rabbi El-Azar ben Ish Bar Tota, the perfect combination, also helped him in that process. So he was involved also in editing the Mishnayot. So he was one of the great Tanaim. And there's a story about him, and the story says something as follows: that he used to give so much tzedakah that when they used to have people who would go around the city collecting for tzedakah. It wasn't until like it's done today. Today, in Israel, I think also in America, you have people knocking on the door, and they knock for themselves, and then you're never sure. Well, is the person in need? Is he not in need? Right? There's always that thing, and the reason we have that thing is not because we don't like giving to people, it's because we want to give what we have to the right people, right? Chas v'shalom, God forbid, nobody here doesn't want to give to somebody in need. We want to give to somebody in need, and that's why we want to give to the right people. But anyway, the way it was done then, and this is halacha tzedakah nigdeh b'shtayim. According to halacha, the tzedakah has to be collected with 2 people. So like that, let's say 2 people are going, and they're not collecting for themselves, they're collecting for the community, right? So they're collecting, so they would go collect the money, and then that the person you're giving the money to is legitimate, and then you're happy to give. You know that it's going to be going to the right purpose, it's going to be going for a good thing. I once had a neighbor, this is many years ago, probably late 80s, early 90s. He was a Gentile neighbor of mine, a very nice person. He comes to me 3 in the morning. He used to knock on the door 3 in the morning, needing money. I really need money. Please help me. And then eventually I realized he was chazit. He was addicted. He was addicted to drugs. And in the middle of the night, he wanted to get more drugs. And he would come to me. And then when I realized what it was for, I said, "I feel really bad. I can't help you." I did feel bad about it. But the point is, when you give money, you want to give to the right people. So they used to have that thing, and the halacha is like that. Till today, tzedakah nigdeh b'shtayim. So those tzedakah people, when they would see him, they would run away because he used to give so much money to tzedakah. They felt it was unfair to him, and they would try to hide. And the story was he caught up with them, and he insisted to know what they're collecting, what they needed the money for. So this is I'm mentioning that story because it's relevant to the Mishnah that we're going to be reading. So let me read to you the Mishnah, and I'm going to explain it to you. Rabbi El-Azar Ish, it's at the top of page 28. Rabbi El-Azar Ish Bar Tota Omer, Ten lo mishelo. Give unto God what already belongs to God. Give to God what belongs to Him. she'ata v'shelcha shelo. And you should remember that you and your assets, what you have, belong to God. Remember that. And I'd like to bring your attention to what the Pasuk says about David HaMelech. This is in the book of Divrei HaYamim, at the end of Divrei HaYamim Aleph. David HaMelech is quoted as saying the following, and it's a Pasuk. Ki mimecha hakol. From you, God, everything we have comes from. Well, whatever we have, hakol, comes from you. Umiyadecha, and when we give something unto God, we're actually giving to God, we are giving to you from your own hand. It's already yours, we're just giving it back to you. Right? That's the Mishnah. That's the thesis of Rabbi Elazar Ish Bar Tota. It's a very interesting way of looking at the concept of tzedakah, and I want to delve into it more deeply. And let's start with the following. The Western mindset about work. In the Western world, right? And I talked about the Western world, I actually especially mean the United States of America, the way it was, with the Founding Fathers and the Constitution. The Western world, it values hard work, right? So the idea of the Western mindset is you work hard, you use your talents, you make an effort, you take responsibility for your life, and if you do that, you will succeed, right? You will succeed, you will make something of yourself, but it takes hard work, right? And it takes intelligent thinking, make the effort, think about it, you can build yourself and you can make money. That's the Western mindset, right? And you have the alternative to the Western mindset is the Marxist mindset. The Marxist mindset is plunder the wealth of other people, right? So that you can use your political power to abuse those who worked hard. Right? That was the Western mindset of Karl Marx. And obviously, he didn't put it that way, but that's exactly what they did. They always did that, right? In all socialist countries, that was always and this, by the way, came from the Spaniards. My father wrote a long article, actually several articles, about the Spaniard mindset. The Spanish mindset, and in Europe this was common, in Christian Spain especially, but in other Christian societies, the idea of honor, the idea of honor said it's ayib to work, it's embarrassing to work. No person who comes from an aristocratic family will work hard. It's ayib, you shouldn't do it. Try to plunder the wealth of others. So that's why in European society, when I think of European society, I'm thinking mostly about Spain, right? Slavery was so important. Why was slavery so important? Because the idea of slavery is that you catch other people and you force them to work for you, right? So part of going to the New World, right, the Spaniards eventually reached the New World, it was a huge thing because it gave them the opportunity to plunder wealth. Not just gold, not just different mineral resources, but also literally to take people and capture them as slaves. So I'm pointing out the different levels of thinking. So there's a low level of thinking. I call it Marxism or Spanish honra. You see the parallelism between Marxism, right, and the Spanish mindset? In both cases, you're thinking of ways of plundering other people's toil for your benefit so you can live a fabulous lifestyle. That's let's say, the lowest form of thinking, and I would call it a very low form of humanity, right? Then above that is America, which I think America, and I believe this sincerely, was the pinnacle of Western world, the pinnacle of Gentile civilization, because they had the idea of working hard. And there's something in the Constitution, and you may have heard of it, the Constitution guarantees you life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And there's an imbalance in the way that phrase was written. Again, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say life, liberty, and happiness. And it doesn't say the pursuit of life, the pursuit of liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's life, because you're guaranteed life, right? As a creation of God, God gave us life. Because God gave us life, the monarch or the government cannot take away our lives. That's life. like liberty. When God created us, He created us in a state of freedom. And because we were created in a state of freedom, God gave us that freedom. The government cannot take away that freedom, right? That's life, liberty. But happiness is different. Why does it say the pursuit of happiness? And they wrote it intentionally that way. They said the pursuit of happiness because the idea is you may have a happy life. You may not have a happy life. It's up to you to pursue it. You see, you pursue happiness. You pursue happiness through hard work. You pursue happiness by making intelligent decisions, right? That's how you pursue happiness. But it's up to you. So you see the idea of hard work, right? And for those of you who know some American literature from the 19th century, there was many writers, particularly Emerson, but others, Thoreau as well, who kind of, their literature reflected this idea of hard work, self-reliance. You don't need government to help you. You don't need Uncle Sam to help you. We can work hard, just stay out of our lives. I mean, the government should stay out of our lives, the monarch should stay out of our lives. Let us work hard, and we can make it the pursuit of happiness. So that's the Western mindset. What is the Torah mindset? How does the Torah view this? Right? And you'll be surprised to learn, or maybe you won't be surprised to learn actually, that a lot of this concept of hard work comes from the Torah. It's a very Jewish concept. And there's a pasuk in Tehillim, and this pasuk in Tehillim is the foundation for the idea that a person should work hard, and there's actually Mishnah Pirqe Abot, we're not studying it tonight, which says that one should think about this pasuk when they formulate how they want to live their lives. So let me read you the pasuk. The pasuk says, Yeria kapecha kitochel ashrecha betov lach. If a person toils with his hands, right, because he's building, because he's planting, because he's doing something, he's working, right? And then through the toil of your hands, you end up eating food, that's the highest form of happiness. Ashrecha betov lach. The Chachamim take that pasuk, ashrecha betov lach. And it seems to mean you are fortunate and it is good for you. So the Chachamim say, ashrecha ba'olam hazeh. Betov lach le'olam haba. It says, ashrecha ba'olam hazeh means you will reach happiness in this world. Again, how does the U.S. Constitution formulate the idea of ashrecha in this? The pursuit of happiness, correct? Right? Very Jewish idea. But the pasuk says betov lach le'od, betov lach, the pasuk is betov lach, and it will be good for you. Where will it be good for you? Say Chachamim, le'olam haba. Meaning this, that we work hard, that we toil, that we produce things in this world. When we go to olam haba, they're going to look at us. You worked hard. You know what? You get extra credit for that. Betov lach le'olam haba. So hard work is not just a formula for the success of society. Yeah, we need to have people working, otherwise society will collapse. Why do Marxist societies always collapse? Because if nobody wants to work, well, everybody wants to have the government giving them. I don't want to be a person working and then everything goes to the government and then gives it out to other people. I'd rather be one of those other people who receive, and I don't want to be one of the people who work for others. I want to be the person who receives from the work of others. That's the Marxist ideology. That's why it always collapses. That's why Venezuela, one of the richest countries in South America, and a friend of mine who lived in Venezuela, he tells me that the price of gas, I think this is not so long ago, I mean, historically speaking, maybe in the early 2000s, I could be off by a few years, because like gas was like nothing, it was like a nickel or a dime for a gallon. They're like the most incredible natural resource, one of the biggest oil reserves in the world was in Venezuela. It was an incredibly wealthy country, but then when the Marxists took over, the country became so poor and impoverished that people were eating their pets because they had nothing to eat. I mean, it was insane. So it shows you how that ideology is a self-destructive ideology. So you say, okay, so the Torah is against that ideology. Well, the reason the Torah is against that ideology, you will say, is because the Torah wants to have a healthy society. We want to be healthy. Well, yeah, we do want a healthy society, but here's the thing. It's good for olam haba. You want pelet olam haba. You want to be, meaning you want to go to olam haba and you want to have a portion in that world. Work hard in this world. It's a mitzvah. You see the idea? It's a mitzvah to work hard and to eat your own fruit. Okay? So that's the idea of, that's a Torah mindset. So the Torah mindset takes it a little further than the Western world. I want to read to you a pasuk in the book of Tehillim, right? And it's attributed to Shlomo HaMelech. And let me give you the context for this pasuk so you understand what it's about. So Shlomo HaMelech was a young child. He was 12 years old. And as a young child, David, his father, died. But before he died, he told Shlomo the blueprints for the Bet HaMikdash. A word about that. When David HaMelech was alive, he wanted to build the Bet HaMikdash himself. And he is not willing to rest and to enjoy his own palace or palaces unless he first builds the Bet HaMikdash for Hashem. That's the idea that David HaMelech has in his mind, and he's correct, except for one thing. He wants to build the Bet HaMikdash. The Nevi'im come to David HaMelech. They actually teach him the blueprints of the Bet HaMikdash. We don't know this. The blueprints of the Bet HaMikdash were not written in the Torah. These blueprints were received be'al peh by David HaMelech from the various Nevi'im, from Shemuel HaNavi, from Gad HaNavi, from Natan HaNavi. So they taught him what the Bet HaMikdash, and there was many, many secrets here that have to do with the mysticism, the mystical aspects of Judaism. So this was all taught to David HaMelech. Before David HaMelech died, he was told that he cannot build the Bet HaMikdash. And later on I'm going to explain why. He comes to his son Shlomo, he's about to die now, and he tells his son Shlomo, you have to build the Bet HaMikdash. And he's 12 years old. Okay, now to build the Bet HaMikdash is, it's not like building a house, a simple house, an apartment building, even the Twin Towers. It's the most sophisticated, complex, technological achievement in the ancient world. Right? It was an incredible masterpiece of a building, so much so that the great Isaac Newton was fascinated by the Bet HaMikdash that Shlomo HaMelech built. Isaac Newton was one of the greatest mathematicians in the history of the Western world. He was, of course, the inventor of classical physics. He was perhaps the inventor of calculus. Some say it was Leibniz, some say it was Isaac Newton. Maybe they invented it together. He wrote many, many books on optics and physics, on Principia Mathematica. You've probably heard that book, where he calculates the force of gravity. That is still used today in sending rocket ships to outer space. I guess maybe Elon Musk at SpaceX. Now they're going to be sending rocket ships to Mars. They want to colonize Mars. So fair enough. So the same mathematical formula still works till today, which is pretty remarkable. So he also wrote a book explaining the mathematics of the Bet HaMikdash. He was fascinated by the Bet HaMikdash. I'm saying this so you understand that when I'm telling you that Shlomo HaMelech is very troubled by this responsibility, how is he going to do it? Right? He doesn't know. He's like, now God made him the most intelligent king we ever had. He got this incredible brilliance, and yet he was troubled. So here's a few pasukim from the following Mizmor. Shir HaMa'alot L'Shlomo. Usually we say Shir HaMa'alot LeDavid, right? This one is L'Shlomo. And it says like this, here's what's troubling Shlomo. And he finally realizes he can't do it alone. And he says the following. Im Adonai lo yibneh vayit. If God does not build a house, shav amelu vonav bo. The workers who are building the house, they are working for naught. You want to build a house? You want it to go up? You have to work hard. Amelu. What does aman mean? Hard work. That hard work will not succeed unless God helps those people building the house. He's talking, of course, about the Bet HaMikdash, right? So he's telling God, I need your help. I can't do it, and there is no way anybody can do it unless you help in this project. Continuing the pasuk, Im Adonai lo yishmor ha'ir shav shakad shomer, and the pasuk finishes and it says, similarly, God will not protect the city of Jerusalem. We can have all the guards, we can have all the army and all the weapons and all the, sophisticated intelligence services. If God is not going to protect the city, then whatever efforts we do will come to naught. Again, the purpose here do not misunderstand that. He's not saying we should do nothing. He said we should work hard and we should make an effort, but we also have to rely on God in the sense that we have to, in our minds, say, I can't do this alone, I need God's help. So work, right? Make the effort. Do everything you can do, but don't think you can do it alone. You see that idea? I don't want you to take it to the Christian side. Say, okay, I don't have to do anything because like the Christian ideology. There's people who say they don't want to take medicine. Why don't they want to take medicine? Well, God will cure me. So that's not the way it works, right? There's people who take medicine and say, okay, the medicine will cure me. That's not the way it works. Because sometimes you take medicine, it doesn't work. Sometimes a person goes to an operation, and the operation is a failure. It could be the best doctor in the world. So we believe the combination. The combination is what? You take the medicine, and you pray to God, please, God, let the medicine work. You see the idea? So that's the way, so that's what Shalom Melech is thinking. And I want to read to you finally Adam Arishon. Adam Arishon is in Gan Eden. What does God instruct Adam Arishon? He tells him, I'm putting you in the garden, and here's your responsibility. Le'obdaha wul-shomrah. I want you to work the garden. He doesn't give him the garden for free. It's not, what is it, Never Neverland? Nokia, is that Never Neverland? It's not Never Neverland. You just eat candies and go on the Ferris wheel and the merry-go-round and the roller coaster. It's not that. It's not Never Neverland. Gan Eden is a place where you have to work. Le'obdaha, and also, what does the Shomrah mean? You have to guard the place. By the way, just as long as we're talking about this, does anybody know what Adam Arishon had to guard Gan Eden against? What did God tells Adam Arishon? He tells Adam, I want you to work. I want you to work the garden. And then he says, Wul Shomrah, I want you to guard. Be a guard. Stand guard. What is he supposed to guard the garden from?
It's deteriorating. No?
The guard means like something's going to invade.
Okay, right.
What do you think it is? He failed. The Nahash, the snake. He was supposed to guard the garden. What the heck is a snake doing in the garden? So he wasn't doing his job. Had he been doing his job, the snake would not have gotten into the garden, and that whole story may not have taken place, right? So anyway, so God requires that Adam work, right? And then he gets, to eat and all that. I just noticed this book is upside down, so let me just put it right side up. And here's my question. When Adam was kicked out of Gan Eden, I'm sorry about that.
So when I kill the snail, it might be a good thing in my garden?
Oh, the snail. yes. It would be a good thing.
Pushing it.
Yes, before I continue. Go ahead.
So can you say that the Baha'i religion is certainly certain way trying to copy this part of the garden of the Adam?
Say that again. I didn't catch it.
Baha'i religion.
Baha'i religion?
Hi.
Oh, the Baha'i garden.
Baha'i Fa.
Yeah,
You notice this, right?
I do. You have the golden.
הם סוגדים ליופי,
Yes,
מאוד יפים.
yes.
אז can you say in a certain way it's trying to copy this Gan?
I don't know enough about them. I never studied
Because
their.
it's like the biggest monotheistic religion.
Yes,
הם סוגדים
yeah.
ליופי.
I just don't know. I just don't know the answer to the question because I don't know their idea. It could be. Could be.
Okay.
Okay, so now the question is as follows. So eventually Adam is kicked out of Gan Eden, and what is the punishment? So it says, now that I'm kicking you out of Gan Eden, you have to work hard and you're going to sweat, right? So let me ask you a question now. So when he was in Gan Eden, what did he have to do? He had to work hard. When he leaves Gan Eden, what does he have to do? He has to work hard. So what's the punishment, right?
Sweat.
The sweat, okay, well, sweating is good. So, you build up a sweat, working out, hopefully with some weight, So what is that about? And the answer is as follows. If you continue the pasuk, it says, Vekos v'darda tasmiach lach. You're going to work hard outside Gan Eden, and what's going to come out of the ground is going to be different than what came out of the ground in Gan Eden. So what came out of the ground in Gan Eden, the trees were already planted, and there's beautiful, beautiful fruits, right? And everything was perfect. So you work hard, and it's perfect. You work, you get the fruits of your labor. When you leave Gan Eden, you can work really hard, and you're going to get like thorny, prickly plants coming out of the ground, right? Okay, you're going to end up eating the weeds of the field. So, what is the punishment then? So the punishment is as follows. In Gan Eden, you work hard, you definitely succeed. Outside Gan Eden, you can pursue happiness. Just because you pursue happiness, you may not reach happiness. A lot of people try to work hard, a lot of people had ideas, a lot of people invested money. We always hear of high-tech companies, incredible success stories of high-tech companies. We never hear the failures, people who went to all their family and their friends and said, listen, I have this great idea, I need money, give me your money for this, and they sincerely thought it was a great idea, and then they failed, right? That happens all the time. How many companies tried and failed? So that's the vikos v'dardan tasmiach lach. So outside Gan Eden, you try and you fail, or you could try and fail, you may succeed, right? So that's why, now I don't like to understand the Jewish mindset. That's what the Jewish mindset says. You have to work hard you can engage in the pursuit of happiness, and you may fail in achieving happiness. And that's just a fact. So what do? Shalom Amelech. Im Adonai lo yibnei bayit, shav anenu bonav bo. God doesn't build the house, then you may not succeed in getting the house built. Im Adonai lo yishmor ir, shav shakat shomer. If God doesn't help you guard the city, you may fail in guarding the city. So that's the idea. So I want now to translate this to the next step. And the next step is, let's think about tzedakah. Let's think about tzedakah in the Western mindset. So the kind of Western mindset is, I worked hard for my money, I got the money is mine, and now I want to give from the money to somebody else, right? And that's great. And by the way, it's a statistical fact that people with a conservative outlook, meaning what happens conservative outlook, so you have two ideologies. Let's call it conservatism, and let's call the other side. I don't like the word liberalism. Let's call it. Let's just go to the other extreme. Okay, so we don't insult them. But let's call it Marxism. So the fact is, people with a conservative mindset who are not in favor of government handouts, who are not in favor of the nanny state telling us what to do, those people always give more charity. They work hard, but they also give more charity, right? Statistically speaking, than the people who are like liberals, and we care about, we care about the poor, we care about minorities, we care about, everything, right? Those people never give tzedakah. It's very interesting. Like, it's just, I did a study of this. How much money certain presidents gave, and how much money other presidents gave to their to charitable organizations. It's really a starkly remarkable statistic. I just don't want to get into it because I don't want to potentially, offend somebody. So the Western mindset is, I'm going to work hard, I'll make money, the money is mine, and now I'm going to do somebody a favor and give them the money. Okay, that's great. You want to do that, and that's good. The Jewish mindset is, the money was given to me by Hashem, because yes, I did work hard, but if Hashem didn't help me, I wouldn't have succeeded. And now I have an obligation, and that obligation is to give tzedakah. A person has an obligation, to mitzvah aseh, to give tzedakah from the money. So the tzedakah means giving money to the knis, it means giving money especially to poor people, right, to people who need. It's a big zechut. I spoke to Dayan many years ago. I was maybe up to 20 years old. He was in my house visiting my father. He's from Israel, and he was collecting money for his yeshiva, and a really yeshiva Dayanut, outstanding Talmidei Chacham. It was the Abot in Yerushalayim, the Dayan I'm talking about. And I kind of got into the conversation with him, like, how do you go to people and ask them for money for your yeshiva? I was curious, and he told me, he says, I'll tell you the truth, I'm doing them a very big favor. They're not doing me a favor. He said, I'm doing them a favor. I'm giving them the opportunity to give money for Talmud Torah, and it's a tremendous zechut, and he really meant it. So That's the Jewish mindset. The Jewish mindset is you're giving tzedakah because you're obligated to give tzedakah. God help you with the money, and now you're, in a sense, giving money to the poor as you're obligated to do. But David HaMelech and Rabbi Elazar ben Ish Bar Tota, they took it a step further. And that's what our Mishnah is about. I want to read to you, so you understand this mindset. I want to read to you the following Pesukim. First, before I do that, are there any questions?
To recap at the beginning, you were saying virtue, the Western line of giving and a pursuit of happiness, and it stops there as work, and it's not. But you were in the beginning trying to say that there's virtue there. That was your emphasis, I think, in the beginning, right?
There is virtue there. Yes, of course. Hard work
is virtuous, and olam haba, like it's a good deed. It's actually above and beyond, and it's rewarded, so to speak, or that's the ideal, and it's a mitzvah, so to speak.
Yes, of course, it is. The ideal is that when a person succeeds in this world and he brings benefit to this world, that's considered virtuous. That's something, when you go to Olam Haba, and you have an honest living, and they ask you, one of the first questions they ask you in Olam Haba, right? How did you conduct yourself, and so on. It's not considered virtuous. Sometimes a person, can't support himself. It happens. I'm not putting them down, but it's not considered virtuous in that case, right? The Sephardic ideal always was, with our Chachamim, was a little different than, let's say, some of the Ashkenazic philosophers. So among the Ashkenazim, they have, and they have a lot of this in Israel, by the way, it's not an Ashkenazic Sephardic. Everybody does it, so I think I'm saying. When I say Sephardic, I mean back in the day. So among the, let's say today, they have the Kollel world. So in the Kollel world, it's considered virtuous to not work. So you have it's like, and I heard this, and I was like a little surprised. So like, if they have these shatchaniyot, matchmakers, right? Matchmakers. Mm-hmm. So like you're a matchmaker, like in Bnei Brak, and like a person comes to you, and then they give you the resume, and they want to see what you're doing. So if they find out that you work, they're not going to help you. They're like, no, this is beneath me. I only deal with quality people. So if you work, and it's on your resume, if you were honest about it, you're in big trouble. It's a little odd. I just thought it was a little odd because it's so contrary to the thinking of the Torah. But in that world, they think that the worst thing you can do is work. And if you, if you're in a kollel all the time, listen, I definitely would love to get to a point in my life where I can study Torah from early in the morning to late at night. It would be tremendous. My father did that. He was, thank God, he was blessed by God, and he worked hard, and he was able to do that. You know what I'm saying? But in the Sephardic world, it was never like that. The Sephardic world always tried to encourage the Talmidei Chachamim to work, to make a living. And but they also in the Gemara, you see that many of the Chachamim in the Gemara, like for example, Hillel was a Choltei Oisim, he was a wood chopper, right? We know many of the Chachamim in the Gemara what they did for a living. So, and they worked, they worked. So I think that ideal, as it's expressed in the Torah, as it's expressed in the stories of the Gemara, the Chachamim that worked, and as it was continued, certainly in the Sephardic tradition, I think it's a correct ideal. Humbly, I think it's a correct ideal. I'm not drawn to the alternative, which is to say, don't work, and I'm not drawn to that personally. That's just my own opinion. I know they do it, and God bless them, and I wish everybody success. I don't put that down, not at all. Chas v'shalom, I would never put that down. They have their way, and that's what they do. But okay, so I answered the question.
Good.
All right, I want to read to you now what happened with David HaMelech, because we started talking about David HaMelech earlier, so I wanted to just hear some of the Pesukim about David HaMelech. This is at the end of his life. You remember the story where it was going to be that Adoniah was going to basically have this coup. He was going to take over the kingdom. David HaMelech was old. He was sick. He was not aware of what's happening. And finally, Bathsheba came to him and told him, listen, didn't you promise me that our son Shlomo would be the next king? And he says, yes. So what's the issue? He says, well, Adoniah is taking over the kingdom. So David HaMelech finally, he went against this. He stood up and he did what he couldn't barely do because he was very old. So the Pasuk says, David HaMelech gathered all of the political leaders of the Jewish people, Sarei HaShevatim, Sarei HaMachlekot, and so on and so forth. He gathered everybody and he appointed David HaMelech. The Pasuk says, Vayakom David HaMelech al Raglav. You remember that David HaMelech was having trouble. He was always very, very, very cold, and he was in bed, and he couldn't stop, release that cold. He makes an effort, and he stands up. Vayomer Shema'uni Achai Ve'ami. Listen to me, my brothers. Listen to me, my nation. And then he says that I wanted to build the Bet HaMikdash, but God told me, God told me, you will not be the one to build the Bet HaMikdash, because you were a man of war and you killed many, many people. David HaMelech killed many people in the war, and he should have killed many people in the war. That's just the way, that's the way war is. So he said, I don't want you building the Bet HaMikdash. I want somebody else building the Bet HaMikdash. And he says as follows, David HaMelech says, Umikol banai, ki rabbim banim natan li Adonai, vayibchar bishlomo bani. From all of my sons, because I have many, many sons, God chose Solomon. Lashevet al kiseh malchut Adonai al Israel. God chose my son Solomon to sit on the throne as the king of the Jewish people. Right? And then God said further, God said, your son Shlomo, he will build the Bet HaMikdash, because I chose him as my son, says God, about Solomon, who will build the Bet HaMikdash, and I'm going to be his father. Okay. And then, and by the way, you know that we say every morning, that's a continuation of this. That's when this happened. It was like David HaMelech was a very, very old man. He could barely stand up. This was after that story where he was always shaking in bed because he was freezing and he could barely move. And he gets up and he gives a berachah to the Jewish people and he appoints Shlomo HaMelech. And here's the pasuk, and I want to find the pasuk. Right. And then David HaMelech continues and he says, I transmitted to my son Shlomo all of the blueprints of the Bet HaMikdash. I told him what needs to be done. And here is the punchline. And David HaMelech says, we're about to build the Bet HaMikdash. Shlomo HaMelech is about to do it. But let's be honest. Who am I? And who is my nation? So that we should gather up the strength to say we're going to build a house for the Shekinah. We can't do it. It's just not real. God, everything comes from you. And at the end of the day, if we gather the gold, if we gather the silver, if we gather the copper, if we get the best wood in the world, and they got the best wood in the world, they used to have ships. They went to Shlomo HaMelech entered into a treaty with the king of Lebanon, and under the treaty, Shlomo HaMelech sent his army, or workers rather, to Lebanon. They cut down the cedars of Lebanon, which was the best wood in the world, and they brought it from Lebanon to the port city of Yaffo, right? And I don't know how they transported the wood from Yaffo all the way to Jerusalem uphill, but they did it. So he says, whatever we have and whatever effort we make, it really comes from you. So all we can say is not only, oh, I built this incredible Bet HaMikdash. I'm so proud of myself. I'm so proud of you. No. If we succeed in building the Bet HaMikdash, don't get a false sense of pride. The strength that we got is a small little thing that we're giving back in a sense to God, right? And He's giving us the strength so that we can build the Bet HaMikdash. That's all it is, right? So it's a beautiful thing. By the way, I sincerely believe that one of the reasons thank God, Baruch Hashem, the community is a wealthy community, right? Thank God. Is because they have all these chesed projects. I sincerely believe that. I really see it. There's problems, there's bad parties, there's a lot of bad stuff happening. I get it, and there's bad influence from the culture around us is degenerate, right? And I think about it, and I really see that connection, right? That we get back, to Hashem, and we do what we're supposed to do, and as long as we continue doing that, we pray to God that He protects us and helps us flourish. But that's such a humble idea. Ki mimecha hakol umiyadecha natanu lach. At the end of the day, if we succeed in this project, we're just giving back to God from His own hand that He gave to us. I love that idea. And that's what Rabbi Elazar Ish Bar Totai is saying. Ten lo mishelo, give unto God what's His. So if you give tzedakah, that's the mindset. And I want to tell you, and end with the following thought on this Mishnah. So anytime you do a mitzvah, there's a particular mindset you have. Let's say tefillin, what's the mindset with tefillin? It has to do with the Yisiyat Mitzrayim, right? That's tefillin. When you pray, you have to have kavanah, you have to feel that you're in the presence of the Shekinah and the Bet HaMikdash. That's tefillah. If somebody asks me to blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, I have to have a special kavanah to fulfill their obligation. Halisa, the mitzvah of halisa, there has to be a special kavanah to do with Hashem mitzvah of halisa. So every mitzvah has its own particular mindset, right? What's the mindset that you should have when you give tzedakah? So the mindset is, it's like I'm giving for my money, but I'll do it, and, I'll do it, okay. The Mishnah is starting with the mindset. The mindset is, this money really is not mine. It belongs to God. I'm just giving it back to Him. I think it's such a beautiful, humble mindset to have. The money is His. And here it is. It's an act of humility, right? So in a sense, at the end of the day, we are trustees. God gives us the money. He entrusts the money with us. And we're the trustees, and we're supposed to make intelligent decisions with the money. And we have to give some back for purposes of tzedakah to help those around us. It's a responsibility that we have, because that's why the money was given to us in the first place. He gave us the money so that we can help those around us. I want to read to you with Hon Ashir again. My father used to quote Hon Ashir a lot. Rabbi Immanuel Pirqe. Rabbi Immanuel Pirqe was one of the great Sephardi Chachamim, and he wrote a beautiful perush. It's a very, very old book. I have the original. He wrote a beautiful perush on the Mishnah. I just want to read to you for no reason, just because he said something on this Mishnah. So I'm going to read it to you, and I'll just explain. He says as follows: Mishum de'ena tzedakah mishtalemet ela lefi gemilut chasadim sheba. What does it mean? Okay, so look at the Mishnah. It says, Ki mimecha ten lo mishelo she'ata v'shelcha shelo. He says, give unto God what belongs to God, because you and what you own, meaning your assets, your money, is really God's. So his question is, why does it say she'ata, that you and what you own belong to God? Why doesn't it say ten lo mishelo she'shelcha shelo, what belongs to you actually belongs to Him? Why does it say she'ata, you and your money belongs to Him? So that's what he's explaining. Okay. He says, because sometimes to give tzedakah, you have to make an effort. You have to do something to give the tzedakah, right? For example, let's say there's a hungry person, there's a person who needs money, and you have this money, but you don't know who to give it to. So the purpose of the Mishnah is, you belong to God. Use your body to go find the poor person that needs that money. He's there somewhere, he's waiting for you, but you have to make the effort. You can't be passive and say, okay, I don't know what to do, okay, whatever, next, I can't do the mitzvah. Make an effort to do the mitzvah, right? משום אחי לא כתנשא שלך שלא ותן לו, אלא אתה, you, והוא הגוף, that's your body. That's what belongs to God, right? וצריך ששניהם יתעסקו במצווה זו, ונתינה לעניים, okay. When you give to the poor, you should feel like you're giving to God. Don't think about the poor. You think about God, right? You know how you return money back to God? By showing grace to the poor by showing grace to the oppressed. When you do that, it's like you're actually giving money to the Almighty. So that's a great idea. I love it. We have 3 minutes. I want to read through the next Mishnah because it's actually connected to this Mishnah. It's actually one Mishnah. Here in this book, they divided it into two. And I think the reason they divided it into two because they didn't realize the connection between the two things. In the old books, it's one Mishnah. So I'm reading to you this next, what appears as the next Mishnah. The Yaakov Omer, the Melech HaCham says, if you are walking on the road and you are studying Torah, what does it mean? It means you're studying Mishnayot Be'al Peh. So you're studying Mishnayot Be'al Peh, and thank God I still do that today. I guess some old habits, they die hard. As when I was a little boy, my father was just told me studying Mishnayot by heart, and I did until today. I study Mishnayot by heart, but then when I'm walking, I recite Mishnayot. So that's what it's talking about. So let's say you're walking in the road and you're saying Mishnayot Be'al Peh, and then you stop. And you say, wow, that's so beautiful. Mama Ei Lanzeh. Look how beautiful that tree is. Mana Ei Nilzeh. What a beautiful furrow in the land. They were plowing the land. Everything is beautiful and green and lush. This person, it's as if although he is subject to a capital punishment. That's weird. Why? Well, what's the big Abot? Aren't we supposed to praise God for the beautiful things in the world? Well, yeah, we are. And we know that David HaMelech always praises God for the beautiful things in the world. So why are we saying that if you're in the middle of studying, right, and you stop to look at the beautiful things in the world, that it's an avon? Why? It's actually a mitzvah. Understand the question?
Yep.
Okay, I'll explain it to you. So the previous Mishnah taught us that the money we receive is from God. Our physical strength, our physical existence is from God. Right? And there are times when our time belongs to God. So the idea of Talmud Torah is taken so seriously. If you're studying Torah, you say, I'm going to study Torah for an hour, whatever the time is. I'm going to study Torah for 2 hours, I'm going to study Torah for 3 hours, I'm going to study Torah for the whole day. I'll study Torah until the morning, whatever it is. You're doing that. That time doesn't belong to you anymore. That time belongs to God. So even to interrupt and say, wow, look at that, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh, what a beautiful tree. Wow, look at that cloud. Whatever. That's good, but not when you're studying Torah. Because if you're studying Torah, the same way the money, there has to be a part of your money that you give to the poor. There has to be a part of your time that you give to God. And when you give part of that time to God, you can't compromise. That time is holy. I think I mentioned to you one of the first things I told my wife when we got married. Before we got married, I said, I know this, household responsibilities and all that. I get it, of course. But I said, if I'm studying Torah, there's going to be times where I study Torah, nobody's allowed to interrupt me for any reason. I don't care, phone call, I don't care, nothing. The only person who can interrupt me is the Mashiach. If the Mashiach is calling me out and he needs help building the Beit HaMikdash, I'll take the call. Other than that, and even for that, you're not supposed to, but other than that, I said, I don't want to be interrupted. And that idea is predicated on this Mishnah. The idea is take the Torah time seriously, right? So that time belongs to God. You gave it to God, don't take it back by looking at a nice tree, don't take it back by doing some other stuff. Be serious about that time. That's the idea. Questions?
Yeah, all right, good. So then we'll try and implement it next week with maybe no pizza, and so we can.
And then we'll do it in the main, please.